And on with tech tip number 4. This one is about using LFOs to your advantage and at the same time making your track, I guess, a bit more human, a bit more variety and stuff. So for me personally, I use it the most in hi-hats. If you listen back to any of my tracks in the last few years, you'll notice I probably use it most of the time in most of my tracks. I tend to have quite a few hi-hats going on in my tracks. I've put together some hi-hats over here. Take a listen to it. I've got some drums and bass going on. That's about it. A bit of percussion. So that's all well and good. What I've got is I've got 3 different hats. It's fairly similar, those ones, but they just add a little bit of variation, and then those in the center. It's actually a fairly open hi-hat, but I've brought down the sustain, decay and release time so it's a bit shorter. And if I just solo those, they're fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck in an LFO over here, so I'll go classic LFO. Now I'm going to do this, this is quite specific to the Bitwig sampler here, but I'm going to show you another example that pretty much anyone can do after this. But the reason I'm showing you it in Bitwig is just because it's just so easy, and I know that there are VSTs out there that do similar things, so I'm just going to show you a couple of ways to achieve this. So you can see what's happened here is I've introduced an LFO into the sampler. It's not doing anything right now, but if I open up the settings, then I can make it synchronize with the beats, and I'm going to go, I'll say 4:1, so it's a bar amount 100%, and we're going to have a sloping sawtooth here, so you can see it's just rising over time. And then I'm going to assign that LFO to both the sustain and release. I guess that much, I'm just guessing at the moment. And then turn that off, so you can see over time both of these will lift like that. Now if I play the track again with just these soloed hi-hats, you can hear what's happening is at the end of this phrase, these few bars, so the 4-bar phrase, it's basically opening up the amount of sustain and release, so I can do a little bit more. Why not? I mean, it's not a particularly long sample, so I could probably go all the way. And let's have a listen. So then when I've got the other 2 hi-hats playing alongside it, it just opens up that extra dynamic then. So when I've got the whole phrase playing, you can hear that the hi-hats sort of slowly open over the phrase, and it just adds that sort of human element to a track, I suppose. You know, if you had a human drummer playing a disco beat, then you know there's a good chance that towards the end of a bar they might raise their left foot and open the hi-hat slightly, and that's basically what we're doing electronically like this. So it just adds that little extra bit of groove. For those of you who don't use Bitwig and maybe don't have a VST or LFO that does that, then I've just loaded in an instance of Anna 2 here. And I'm going to hit menu and initialize preset. So it should be, if I unmute it and reach for the keyboard. Yeah, so that's just a saw wave. We're going to bring these voices down to 0. So there's now no sound. And then we're going to load the sampler, and in the Ana 1 noise, if I remember rightly, yeah, there's white noise there. So I've now loaded up some white noise, which sounds like that. And then I'm going to filter it a bit because white noise has a bit of low end in it. So I'm going to give it a high pass filter. That's probably too much. That sounds good to me, and you just play it by ear. Then I'm going to go to the amplitude envelope, and I'm going to bring the sustain down to 0, actually. And then the decay down as well. And now you can hear it's sounding pretty much like a open hi-hat. So I think I did put them in. Yeah, so I've chucked in some notes here. And if I play the track, have I muted those? Yes. So if I play the track, then you can see those are just repeating. So now I've got my open hi-hats using Ana 2, and it's just some white noise, which sounds fine. So what I'm going to do is go to the LFO, and I'm going to change the waveform to saw up, just like I did in Bitwig. And I'm going to go LFO target down the bottom, I think. Yep, amplitude envelope. And I'm going to go sustain. And then also, again, exactly the same as I did in the Bitwig modulators, go for envelope release. Now I'm going to hit the sync button so it synchronizes and hit the rate 4:1 or 4/1, just like I did. And what else do I need? Then I think it's just a case of the depth. So if I hit play and then raise the depth. And there we go. So I've brought the target depth of the release down a little bit, as it was probably too much, and then I lifted the depth too much on that. But if I bring it down ever so slightly as well. And there you go. You've just made yourself some white noise hi-hats, and you've added in the sort of human element to it. You can also then, if you wanted to take it further, you know, get another LFO with another saw up shape that then adjusts, I don't know, maybe the depth of this LFO or something else that just then changes the overall shape of the waveform on LFO 1. But that's up to you guys, really. Just play around with that, and you got yourself some kick-ass hi-hats. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting, and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.